Let me know when you're up and going, Michelle. It's 6:30 now.
Yep, it's all set.
Okay, I'd like to call this special council meeting to order on July 29th at 6:30 p.m. Jenny, roll call, please.
Paula,
Here.
Marty,
Here.
Matt,
Here.
Ben,
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Okay, moving on to the discussion. I know that on the agenda it says the updates for the water and sewer, but Paula, before you signed on, I asked if we could go ahead and discuss this movie that Mark Hammer and his group of Garage Creative Studios, I think it's called, wants to shoot in the village come October and November. Says he's going to be trying to join us if he can. So he was driving through the village on his way somewhere else last week one day, and was very impressed and took a tour of the village, and they have a script that he thinks that the village would be suitable for. And as you saw, he sent pictures of the different areas. He would like to be shooting something at the police station. They might be using the entryway to the post office as showing as the entryway to the police department. They have Mill Street Headwaters Trail extension on there. They have the bridge down by the river where the canoe turnaround is. They want to shoot some scenes at the Mantua Station drug. They would like to use the VA hospital, at least the front, and possibly the corridor, the hallway, to present as a VA hospital. Then we have the two houses up on Prospect Street. One's 4598, the other one's 4594. I'm sorry, I said Prospect, I meant West Franklin. Then also the building that B&H owns on East Prospect Street. And I think it's the first house. I think she's still in the village. The ranch house on Peck Road. And they're also showing part of Peck Road. Now they're using the Mantua Center cemetery. I'm going to talk to him about using the village's cemetery instead. I don't know what scene they have there, but if it's because of the wall, maybe they can insert a wall, but we'll talk to him about any of those things if council approves it. And then there's going to be some shots of buildings on Prospect Street and the old Mantua Grain and Supply. Since Jeff isn't here yet, you all saw the email that he had sent. Any questions?
He is here.
Oh, he's here?
Yeah. Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Mark.
Hi. How are you?
So did I explain that well enough, Mark?
Yeah. You explained it really well. Just like she had mentioned, we're looking to film this in Cleveland with a Cleveland-based crew. My production partners and I were planning on shooting this out around your area and the surrounding municipalities. And I happened to be driving through and then had to stop and really look because, the areas that you have are really, really nice. And I think it really fill, some of the scenes that we're looking to shoot. I know that our project is very, it hinges on what's going on with COVID and what all safety protocols are, going forward. So with that in mind, like in a perfect world, we're planning on a fall shoot just because the story takes place in the fall. So we're looking at a late October, early November. We have 20 days of shooting total. Not all 20 days will be in your area. Most of them will be, and they will be, half of them roughly are day shots, and then the other half are night shots. So the schedule will be moving back and forth, and I can basically change that schedule based on availabilities and what is most convenient for everyone involved. So if there's, better days for, a park shot than others, if there's happens to be something's going on in your park, then we can kind of schedule around that. With the fact that no matter what is happening with COVID, we have really scaled back our crew. If you had asked me how many people would have been on set 6 months ago, it would be a completely different number. But right now we're paring it way down in terms of the number of crew that we'll have, and it's going to be very minimal. Sometimes it might be as little as 8 people, but as much as on like the bigger shots, maybe up to 15, but I don't want to go any higher than that. And if I can keep it lower than that, I will. But just to kind of give you a range, that roughly the size, of what we're doing. Most of our crew is, like I said, they are local, so they will be driving in and leaving at the end of the day. We do have a couple of out of town actors that'll be coming in, and we haven't figured out where we're going to have them stay yet. They would be the only ones, that are, staying overnight. And I know I can keep on throwing more and more information at you. But I guess, at this point, does anyone have any questions? I don't want to take up all of your time, and just kind of just to see what you think.
How much is it going to cost us?
Oh, it's not going to cost you anything. I'm not asking you for anything. Yeah. Good question.
Well, Mark, I think it's a good idea for the community.
Oh, yeah.
Possibly if there's a chance for any extras for some of our business owners or residents to be passing by or something like that, that would be wonderful. Because I see you're going to be filming on Prospect Street and such. So, and I did reach out to the owner of the building for UH Hospital, and she seemed pretty amenable to discussing anything with you on that. So,
Okay. Yeah, there definitely will be opportunities to have people within it, in the background, and as other, smaller roles as it comes up. In terms of like the, like the residential houses, I just happen to be driving down that street. There's a lot of good options. So I was kind of like using that as like kind of like an example. Like it has a nice front porch, like there, it's a scene where the neighbors are talking to each other, as they're sitting out on their front porch, as opposed to, like the farmhouse one, which is more isolated, so those are just examples, and kind of open to, kind of pivot, and, if there's better solutions, we can certainly do that.
if council approves moving forward with this, what do you need from us?
Sure. So what I would need from you is, when it comes down to permitting, how you want to work out, that, because, for example, on the days that we'll be shooting, in the center of town, I don't want to close off any streets by any means, but we will be having, like cars parked on, the side of businesses, and, just kind of need to know like how you want to, manage that. There is one shot and it's not a very long, presentation. I think it was, I put it on that sheet. I can't remember the name of it. It might've been Peck Road or Peck Street. That would be the only one where we have a car driving down the street where we may have to close it off. Other than that, just kind of the support from you in terms of, can we use the police station, and what does that look like? And then, can we, use some of the interiors, like, with the post office if we need to. I think what I would do here, next steps, if, you're in agreement, is I would come back out, again, and do a walking tour and get very specific at that point. So like, this is the room where we're going to do this. This is the exterior of this exact building. And then kind of, then present that to you with like, these are the actuals now, as opposed to my first just pass through the town.
Any questions from council members?
Hey, Mark, I just wanted to say thanks for joining us, and I like it. I think it's a great idea, as long as there isn't any like real heavy-handed political or social, type messaging attached to it. But I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great exposure, and who knows, before you know it, they might be filming Avenger movies out here.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. There isn't a any political agenda or social agenda in this, and I'm perfectly comfortable with sharing the script with you all if you would like to see it. Like, typically we don't do that, but I mean, I understand that everyone has a stake in this, and I want everyone to feel really good, and this is exciting. So I can certainly share the script with you. And if you have any questions, you can let me know.
Hey, Mark, it's Chief Hurst with the police department. If council decides to move forward with that, yeah, I think if you came back out and we kind of went through some things, there's certain areas of the department because of leads, there's some confidential information, but I'd be more willing to meet with you. As far as the post office, I can't speak for them as far as their lobby and stuff. You'd have to take that up with the post office, but as far as here, I'd be willing to work with you. We can meet and kind of go over some things.
Okay, yeah, that would be very helpful. Yes.
I think that if council decides to go forward, we could act as liaison for the businesses or the property owners to, help you with meeting them and set up any agreements you would need from them for using a porch or like the ranch out on Peck Road, those kind of things. So,
yeah, that'd be incredibly helpful.
Paul, I thought you were getting ready to say something when.
No, I thought it was a good idea. I liked Matt's question regarding the social and political agendas. And that's good to hear that that's not part of it. Thank you.
And as you probably heard when you first chimed in, I see where you've picked Mantua Center Cemetery. I'd like to show you our cemetery in case you might change your mind and want to use that.
Oh no, that's absolutely fine. That was, kind of like just a photo in me driving, not knowing where the lines are, and all that. Like it's a military funeral, and so it just needs to feel like a a smaller, a small town cemetery. And I just happen to be driving past that one, so absolutely, can look at yours.
Well, we have a lot of veterans resting up at our cemetery, and
Yes, we do.
Mhm.
I think you would be impressed with how it may work out for you.
Okay, perfect.
Council, any more questions?
Well, but I think it's good because he's going to be showing all of the good points in Mantua and none of the empty stores.
They can Photoshop businesses into those.
Yeah.
And as Mark had told me, I think I am correct in remembering this, there's not going to be any reference to Mantua in the movie.
Correct. Yeah, we wouldn't be saying
In the credits.
Well, absolutely in the credits, but as far as a story perspective, it's a small Midwest town, and that's kind of like where we're leaving it.
Well, if all of you are for this, if I could have a motion.
I will make that motion.
Second.
Matt,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Marty.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you for joining us today, Mark. And when you're ready, give us a call and we'll set things up with you.
All right, great. Thank you everyone for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Thanks, Mark.
Right. Have a good evening.
Yep, you too.
Okay, moving on to the updates for the water and sewer merger with the county. Hopefully everybody took the time to read the many pages from Rich and from the county. And Dave Saluka had called this meeting to do the presentation. He had volunteered to do it, and he's not available any longer. As you all know, he turned in his resignation today because of family matters. And so I'm hoping that I'm not prepared to do it because I didn't find out till this afternoon. Hopefully between John and Rich and Michelle, we can get everything, answer any questions that you have, and see which way you're leaning and how we want to move forward. John?
Yes, I think essentially it's the same agreement basically that they voted on, but there will be amendments to it. And those amendments, most significant, are the way the charges are. Before, we only had 500 units, and there was some concern that the homeowners and so forth, those low income, would be charged too much. So going with the EPA Green Book guidelines and doing the EAUs, or equivalent units is what they are, using those instead of size of water lines and so forth makes it more sense. It's a standard used across the nation, both in planning and in engineering. It will meet that goal, because instead we'll have something like 734 units. I don't remember the exact total. And unfortunately, my printer was going out at the end there, so I have some of it, but we just have a sampling. We have to nail that down yet on all the EAUs. Myself and Tia will have to go from house to house. As we put meters in, a lot of that information will be gathered, and from there we'll define it. But it gives the lower person, or that single elderly lady or gentleman, they will be paying less. And of course, the top end users will be paying more, which is normal. Your restaurants, your schools, some of your factories, but some of those are shut down now too. So it's not of a significant concern as it once was. So
I got one quick question. This negotiation is just in what, about the middle of it? It's not completed yet. Is that right?
what, I'm sorry, Ben, go again.
I'm saying that this negotiation that y'all are into right now, it's not completed. Y'all, it's ongoing.
It's ongoing for the amendments to that agreement. That's
Okay.
correct. It's almost finished, but it's not. It's pretty close to being concluded, because we haven't changed that original agreement. Because remember, we were in negotiation to make a substantial change. Well, that fell apart. We couldn't agree to disagree or so forth. So we got done with that. We went back to the original agreement, and we made certain amendments that Ted and his group have the blessings of it, and we've worked and we went back and forth. He's had a lot of questions, a lot of good questions, and we've tried to answer them. And I think the county has moved a little because of that, to his credit.
Has the surcharge cost changed any at all?
Yes, it has. That's what I was talking about. It's significantly. Do we have we don't have the example. It's not 86. Rich, can you chime in on that? It's not 86. Significant less.
Yeah, sure, John. Good evening, Council. Hi, Mayor. So last evening in preparation, Mr. Sluka had called me in preparation to kind of get a few points that he wanted to communicate. So I had prepared and cobbled some things for him. And then hearing just a little bit ago that he wasn't available, I put together a few notes. Your packet that Michelle distributed to you has the summary that John is referring to. I don't know if you have that in front of you, but it basically, to your question, Ben, what was 86.79 as a flat surcharge will not be flat anymore. It will be related to the equivalent building unit for every single parcel or account in the village. So the equivalent building unit was the methodology that only in the last few months, the county raised, that they found that they have the ability to administer the billing using this process, which is basically assessing every parcel an equivalent building unit. That's what's explained in the memo I gave you. What it doesn't do is maybe give you, and what I had suggested to Dave and what I'm prepared to show you this evening, is what is its impact on a typical residential user. So I cobbled a few notes just in the last hour, and I will share it with you on your screen if you can see this, which I hope you all can see this. So like I said, I just put this together in the last hour. What I wanted to show, and what Dave wanted to relate to all of council, was what is its impact on a residential customer and residential account. And the obvious reason to all of us is that 92% of your customers use less than 1,000 cubic feet a month. Now, there aren't many residences that use 1,000 cubic feet a month, but 92% are less than 1,000. In addition to that, 72%, almost 3/4 of your customers are less than 500 cubic feet. So what I did was, well, based upon this new methodology, what is the impact on a single family home? So when you look at the current rate, this is, and again, all these rates are combined water and sewer, okay? And includes the current monthly village rate with recent increases, the recent increases you did. So what I did was looked at a single family home with 100, 200, 500, 800, and an astronomical 1,200 cubic feet a month. You obviously got some water leaks, or there's 8 people in the house or something like that. So this is the current village rate in this column, village rate. If under the preliminary EBU surcharge, which the county calculated at $60 as a single equivalent benefit unit based upon a very preliminary assessment of the number of equivalent building units. As John said, the village and the county, if we go forward, would have to make a detailed review of every account to make sure it's accurate. When it is, it simplifies the process greatly. We are no longer, the county's proposal is no longer using the amount of water being used at consumption. It's based upon the equivalent building unit. So just taking the second one here, 200, because this is very close. A 200 cubic foot customer is not going to see any significant difference in their cost. But the more water you use, the more relief discount you're going to see, as you see there. And that's because a single family unit is still 1 EBU. Let's say we accept the $60 based upon the preliminary calculation. The current county, I'm sorry, was the question? Okay, the current county base rate is 65, roughly, for all usages less than 500 cubic feet a month. Again, 72% of your customers are less than 500 cubic feet per month. So they would be getting a $65 base rate from the county, and the surcharge is 60. That's why you see 125 for the three examples I show here under 500 cubic feet. Then it starts to ramp up on the county side, still considerably less than the current village's rate. That's the current rate of what an 800 cubic foot customer would be paying as a single family home would see a huge reduction. And so this is I think was the most important thing that I know John, the committee, and Dave wanted to convey to all of council. The most significant movement, if you will, in the negotiations, because the county, I don't know if it was discovered or through some research internally, they found that they could apply this process of an equivalent building unit. And I attached the table to your packet of what is an accepted EPA guidelines for the equivalent building units. Obviously, it's different for a one-bedroom apartment, a restaurant, a bookstore. It's different. And so it's a factor of 1 EBU in a single-family home is equivalent to 1 equivalent building unit, EBU. So that's the most significant change as a result. And as John pointed out, then the mid to higher level users will see increases because they're equivalent building units based upon the school or a restaurant. It's based upon the classification by EPA of their facility based upon their current use. So they will see some increase, and almost a lot of that is the non-residential. Then when you get to the higher end, your biggest customer, that being Nanoline, they'll see a significant discount. So it's that middle tier, I would say, surmise that the 1,500 to 5,000 cubic, these larger entities, but not Nanoline, are going to see increases. So that's the most significant factor. There were 3 other points that I just threw together the notes on. And one is this is the point about 72% of the customers are less than 500 cubic feet. So their rate is about the county's rate, that's $65. There was discussion and question related to what is included in $65 on the county side. The county indicated that inclusive in that fee, in that 65, is the county's reserve fund for capital emergency repair and debt service. They indicated that was about 11% of the 65 or $7. In our case, that amount is being allocated for repairs and failures not covered in the identified needs list. No part of the 65 is being applied towards the county debt service. So that was the committee's understanding prior to renegotiation. I think it was better clarified, and I believe it was clarified to the ad hoc committee rep, Ted Bixler, in terms of that, because he had a number of questions related to that. The second important point I would say is the water system interconnect. This is a best practice of backup water supply recommended by EPA. The original split was 50-50 with the total cost at $2.4 million. The county agreed to change that to 75% of the cost. So now that, so our share of that interconnect, again, it's in the identified needs list of 600. However, they also indicated, and I myself, our staff corroborated that because of the regional interconnection, there is there's a likelihood of getting 50%, as much as 90, that was the county's estimate, of that covered by a grant. So this could be a significant reduction in the village share. So that was the second thing to bring to council's attention. The third, I would say, is this, that the counties agreed that all other users that are added to the system which use the capacity of our plants, inside or outside, that the balance of any fee over cost will be credited toward the identified needs list. So the counties agreed, regardless of if it's a connection at the turnpike, for instance, or north of town, and they come into the, excuse me, whether it's water or wastewater, the balance of what's over the cost will be accredited towards the identified needs list.
And that'll be the hydraulics.
So those are the four. Obviously, the most critical is the change in the methodology of the surcharge calculation. That's what I have to present. And obviously, maybe there's questions. It's been a long process, there's no doubt.
I got one more question, or maybe a couple.
Yes, sir.
Is that 500 cubic feet still a minimum, or is they going back to just what you're using?
The county's current rate structure is based on quarterly usage at 1,500 cubic feet per quarter. And then that's when the rate increases. They will, however, adjust the billing to monthly. Am I correct on that, Mayor, for Mantua? Yes. So all I did was take the 1,500. All we've been doing is 1,500 divided by 3 is 500 cubic feet a month. And after 500 feet, the cubic feet, the county's rate ramps up a bit. And that's why you see at 800 cubic feet, instead of 125, it's 153. It's not as significant as what the village's rate ramps up when you increase the consumption.
So the 500 cubic feet per customer is still in effect?
Oh, yes. Yeah, they didn't change any. Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, nothing's changed.
Why is it that that interconnect up to Shadowsville is going to be a cost to the village?
The county contends, and the village, at least the committee, agreed that, and based upon a best practice, that all communities should have as part of their, I don't want to say asset management, I believe it's the emergency response for a backup water supply. And in order to get the village a backup water supply, the interconnect is what the county says is what they follow best practice, and it's the EPA guideline for a backup water supply. What we negotiated was the percentage of what we should share, the village should share, excuse me. And then with the strong possibility of grants, it's a very good benefit in terms of safety and service with not a major investment on part of the village.
Well, my point is this: why are we paying for something that has nothing to do with the village? It ain't going to benefit the village. It's only going to benefit the people up by Shadowsville somewhere.
I'm sorry, Ben. What I just said was it's a backup water supply to.
I understood what you said.
Oh, okay. Well, that's my answer.
Rich, I just have a few questions and comments.
Yes.
You mentioned that the higher volume businesses are going to see an increase in their rates using this EBU methodology here. Has it been projected at all that it's potential for them to maybe look elsewhere to move their business because of the water rates? Like, has it been projected, like what kind of impact is going to be on those larger volume businesses?
A good question. Yeah, absolutely. I did my own view, and anybody can use in those tables, but of a I don't know, a 30 or 40 seat restaurant or a or the schools, I would tell you that the increase, in my opinion, is there's an increase, but I don't think it's drastic. I don't think it's like they got to move. I think we're talking about 25, maybe 33% increases in their cost.
Yeah. Is there a way that we could review, like Jenny, is there a way that we could review what they pay now to see exactly how it's going to impact those businesses?
I think Mary Ann could give you that. Yeah, she would have that.
But we can only do that once we nail down that 60 or the $50 surcharge. It may be as low as 52, probably as high as 60. But without that, those numbers, just remember, they could be $10 off. That's all.
Yeah.
Correct. But again, you can't look at what your current, it's an EBU. All due respect, you have to apply an EBU to the property, and that's following an EPA guideline. I mean, I could, again, I have assessed some of the businesses. I have those figures. I know what they are. If we want to, if I want to distribute it to council, I look to the mayor and the committee. We want to see those estimates.
Yeah, no, I understand the concept. I just want to see how it stacks up to what they pay now. That's all.
I have that. I have that.
Cool. Another question: the EBU table here, is that kind of set in stone, or is this just an example of how it's normally done?
The table you're referring to, Matt, is what was attached to this table?
Yeah.
That is accepted. That is the equivalent building usage table from the code in the county.
Okay.
So that's where you get certain percent. Here's a 4-bedroom. It's one. A church. You see the factors that are applied. Car washes are actually less than an equivalent building unit. All food service operations are per seat. So there's and here's the house right here. House one. So there all of these outside of the major, outside of the 72%, you probably have 70 to 80% are all homes anyway. So, but I agree. To take a look at that, I can certainly generate examples of what those impacts are to those businesses. Absolutely.
Yeah, very good. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, just one more last quick question. Now I understand that they had the EBU methodology, and they presented to us recently, not at first. Is there any other type of methodology that is available to distribute that fee? Just out of curiosity.
Yes, and that's what actually, without the EBU in place or not knowing they were going to be able to use it, I had proposed tiers, 3 tiers, which I think I've presented to council before. That basically took.
Not to interrupt, Rich, but isn't that what the county shot down, and that's why we stopped it? They wouldn't. They wouldn't do the tiers. Yeah, that's it. No, but the 3 tier. Go ahead. That's talk about.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, John. So I presented it 3 tiers, and the county's concern was it complicates the billing system, and this greatly simplifies the billing system, no doubt. And what it does, at least I think in the committee, and speaking on behalf of the committee, it helps to really lower the impact on the predominant number of your users in your system, less than 500 cubic feet. 72% of your customers will see little to no and some discount.
Yep. Nope, understood. No, it makes sense, and I like where it's headed.
Yeah, Rich, that was included in Michelle's handout from July 1st, a printout of the tiers that we had been looking at back then from you, a memorandum from you. So you should have that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And also, if I could ask everyone again, if you're not speaking, to mute yourself, because there's all kinds of background noise going on. It's not that hard to unmute yourself when you want to say something. Thank you.
Hey, Rich, If,
Yeah, Scott.
leave your screen right where you have it, okay?
Okay.
So $7 of the surcharge, $7 of the fee goes to repairs. How are we going to tackle this identified needs list if none of the $65 goes towards the county's debt on that?
That's the $60 surcharge. The $60 surcharge is based
We'll go
upon
directly to the needs
to the
list.
identified needs list. Correct. That's how the number was generated.
Okay,
Yep. That was in the packet.
right.
My memo here that shows the calculation for sewer and water separately. The sewer recapitalization per month, the preliminary number of EBUs came out to $26. 18.3 comes from the identified needs list.
Okay, all right,
Yep.
all right.
And then on the water side, same thing. 25, as we've been talking, water is more than sewer, the needs. But the benefit, the building units is a higher number. So that's 32, and this is where I'm using roughly 60 bucks. So the surcharge is the identified needs. Think of it that way. The village has never had a reserve fund for capital and repair.
Right.
The county does.
Okay, so the surcharge is for the capital needs. Has that list changed at all? Do you know?
No,
Okay,
other than modified, like I just mentioned on the water interconnect.
yeah,
Oh, and I'm sorry, and the village is proceeding with the tank. So that will, make an adjustment
mhm,
in getting the tank done, that tank project. And of course, it'll change if and when this comes to fruition, because the village has been continuing to pay debt down. So the debt's in there. They're assuming the village's debt as well.
okay, if this does come to fruition, and we're still not done with our tank, is the county on board with what we're doing? I mean, have you been keeping
Yes.
them apprised of what's going on? I mean,
I sure
with
have.
your plan? Okay,
Yes.
so everybody's good with everything we're doing on our end? If
Yeah,
they
they're
were to
fighting-
take,
They're fighting. No. I'm just keeping them apprised that the latest I told the department was the issue we have with the property and not
Okay.
being able to use it other than for temporary purposes. And we're trying to locate, and then I locate the tank in a different location. But as I explained to the mayor earlier today, we're looking at alternative locations north on the Crestwood property, which
Okay.
does not look good right now because of
Okay.
elevation. But I'll have a little report to you and council
okay,
pretty
And
soon.
Scott,
yes, ma'am.
in the original agreement, and I don't think that this has changed, Rich and John, tell me, the county has agreed any debt that we have, even though we are paying down our debt on our sewer plant and any other loans we have that have to do with water and sewer, the $150,000 loan or $100,000 loan, I'm sorry, I don't have it in my head right, they'll absorb that. So,
Right.
Okay.
That's correct, Mayor.
Ben, any more questions?
I do have a comment. This all started about with the county because the premise was that we couldn't afford to operate and maintain the plants. I think that's correct. The problem I got with all this negotiation, all this, we're negotiating a contract with the county and we're still going to pay for it. We're still going to make the payments and pay for all this stuff that needs to be done. It's identified needs. My house has got identified needs. Every plant in the country's got identified needs. Your car's got identified needs probably. But if we can't afford, we're negotiating with it because we can't afford to pay for it. And then the negotiations are saying that we're going to pay for it anyway. That don't make much sense to me. That's my comment. We're still paying for it, even though we can't pay for it.
And my response to that, Ben, is while you're correct that we are still paying for it, we have been negligent in raising the rates to add to our capital projects fund, that by the time that we would raise enough money to have a match for a $1 million loan, that $1 million loan would be, or a grant, I mean, would be 125 million. With the county, they can front us the money at the current rates. Yes, we have to pay it back. You're correct there. But we'll be getting things done so that we don't have another water break like we do right now that we're dealing with. And if we hadn't had the referendum, this project that could cost us a little bit of money or a lot of money would have been coming out of that $65 monthly fee. So
I don't accept your reasoning.
well,
It's
I don't expect.
It's still costing me more money.
Let me try to answer that, Ben. So the identified needs that we agreed, and it's not the end of the needs that are needed in the system. It's just what's been identified. Now, let's say the village does pay for the identified needs and you're on your own. I gave you several reports that indicate this figure that you see, the 200 cubic foot, $120, will be more than double. The point is, if you were to finance the identified needs and do it on your own, you have a small customer base to spread it across. You can't, it will be a very, very ultra expensive. So if you were on your own, right now, this rate would have to double. And I showed you those reports a couple times based upon our 2016 revenue projection on the needs, even before we entered it, looked for, issued an RFQ for this back in 2018. So I guess, I don't know if that does answer it, but while you're saying we're paying for it, but we're doing it through the county in a surcharge, and we're not having to pay, or I'm sorry, we're not having the village to finance the operation, maintenance, and repair on its own. The county's doing it under their $65.
I understand that, Mr. Alphalese, but what I'm saying is that we're still paying for it.
But somebody has to. Somebody has to. It's not free.
I don't know.
So what we're trying to do is figure out, what we're trying to do is figure out what's the best for the village in the long run. Not that it's going to be free. The county's not going to come here and say, well, we're going to fix, repair everything. And what they did was identify the eventual repairs in the first 5 years. And after 5 years, that identified needs, if they don't appear, they're off. They come off the needs list. And their $60 starts to get reduced.
Well, yeah.
I just think
what does this 5-year grace period really mean?
It's right here. It's in your packet.
I've read the thing. I've read the thing 4 times, Rich.
Okay, well, that's the answer. It's in this paragraph right here.
I've read it.
If they're not needed in the first 5 years, after 5 years, all unspent funds will be returned to the village by removing it from the budget of identified needs. The county becomes fully responsible for the cost of all repairs and replacements.
Well,
there's $1 million there.
All of that doesn't change the fact that we're still paying for something that we're giving away things. We're still paying for it, even though we can't even.
We're paying for something that we should have been paying for all along and didn't.
Correct.
Well, I remember a time when Rich and I and Fred Cash and Brian Rogers tried to get a council to increase the rates 2%, and they wouldn't do it.
That's right. That's right. you're right, Ben.
I know, I know I'm right. I was there. I talked to her. I tried to get the council to do that and they wouldn't do it.
No.
I talked to them about doing it. So did you, Rich, and so did
Yep.
Brian, so did Fred Cash.
Yep. But, those decisions are in the past.
I agree.
Yep, there was
That's
obviously.
what I'm saying about all this identified needs stuff. Identified needs is there's 1,000 identified needs in every plan in the world, probably.
Correct.
And the life cycle of the equipment in there is 6 to 8 years. Maybe the electrical stuff or electronics might last a little longer, but if you get more than 8 years out of a piece of equipment in there, you're gravy. So the identified need list is always there.
Correct. But once they're done, it's the counties.
Well, it's still, that doesn't change the fact that it's still costing us, that we're still paying the bill.
And we're gonna be paying the bill without the county
Anyway,
too.
it doesn't matter.
It does, one way or the other, we're gonna have to pay it. Scott, you have any more questions?
Well, I want to put Rich on the spot real quick. Think on your feet, real fast, Rich. This $190, the village rate. I mean, this is just hypothetical, okay? For 500 cubic feet, $125 county rate if everything was good. What would happen, let's say in 2 years, to that village rate if we can't come up with an agreement with the county? Just top of your head, what do you think would happen to that $190?
Well, certainly if the village was on their own, we'd have to figure out how to finance the improvements you need and develop a reserve fund, which you don't have.
Right.
You have to raise rates.
Okay. So, I mean, these the 100-year-old water lines we have on our fire hydrants and all this crap we have breaking monthly, it seems like, or bi-monthly.
Yep. We
have no fund. We just raised that to $190.
Correct.
So in 2 years, what are you thinking? 250, 300 bucks?
Well, that was the 250 is the figure that on an average, the average customer would need to go to afford it on your own.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, I understand everybody's feelings about wanting to keep the plants, and I mean, when we first started talking about this, I did too. It was they're ours, but we lost the battle. I mean, bottom line, I feel like we lost the battle years and years and years ago when we didn't take care of our infrastructure, and we just do not have enough people in this village to spread it out, to make it worthwhile.
And Scott, you're not alone. You didn't just lose the battle. Many thousands of communities across the nation are in the same predicament, both villages and small cities. It's not a failure at all. It's the cost of doing business, and it's the number of small customers we never did grow like we anticipated. And and like the EPA made us build to years ago also, because they thought people will come, and they haven't, unfortunately.
Well, unfortunately,
I think it's not really put blame on anybody. It's just, it's a fact of life these days.
Right. No, I know. I mean, it's just one of those things, you have two great plants sitting down there that you want to keep for your own, but it's just, it's not feasible. When you look at these numbers, I mean, and raising that, it's just not feasible. There's no way we could raise enough money to cover all the bills we would have in this village.
And the most significant factor under the village's current billing structure is you have one major customer pulling the freight.
Right.
Because of how much water they use. If you were on your own, their rate's gotta go way up.
Right.
And so that's what you economically, that's what you look at down the road, trying to maintain a 100-year-old system.
Uh, we're gonna be giving the county roughly over $500,000 plus the budget, plus the $500,000 in the building a year, plus the budget, which is probably a little over 100,000 for each plant. That's 700 and something. That's probably close to $7.75 million. And they're gonna take care of everything. And you're saying that we can't because that's not enough money. How come it's enough money for them?
They're leveraging the 20,000
We have
customers.
20,000 customers.
20,000. We can't even borrow the money we need to borrow because we don't
Well,
have the
I'll tell
rates
you what,
to pay it back.
If they got 20,000 customers, they could put $1 surcharge on every one of them, and then they wouldn't have to have such a surcharge for the village.
Then we could get them to agree to that, it'd be great, but they won't agree to that, and they haven't.
Well, they can, and if they needed to, they would. I
No,
The rest of the
don't mean
county.
to be yelling. I apologize.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I think what would happen, as it happened with the plants, they'll just walk. It's to that point. Either vote passes this time or the county will be gone and we will be on our own. And that's an unsurmountable,
When they
attainable for
when they
dollars.
get the plants, if something happens and they need more money, what do you think they're gonna do?
The whole county will pay for it, not just us. After
Where
a
they gonna
5-year
put that
period.
money? They gonna charge it to the people somewhere somehow. The people are the only ones that's gonna pay them. Money's with the people. The county gets their money from the people just like everybody else does.
You know, I think somebody brought that up at one point, 8-10 months ago. And I think I distinctively remember hearing Gene say, why would I have the county pay for the village?
I heard him say that too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can see his point. You know, we've approached him. You know, I wouldn't have my employees pay my health insurance if I couldn't pay my own health insurance. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't do that. I mean,
Well, the thing, that's not what I said, Scott. That's changing the subject. What I said was if something happened and they needed more money, they would take it from the people and they would charge more to the people. They'd put a surcharge or they'd up the rates. They'd have to.
Well, but Ben, they might have to raise the rates, but that would be raising the rates across the county
right.
and not just on the village of Mantua.
He said in the meeting that he wasn't going to do that he couldn't do that. And John just said he couldn't do that too.
Well,
So now you're saying that they will?
you're asking that, I think you're mixing your questions there.
No, I'm not.
If the costs raise for the county across the county system, then if it's from wages to their employees, benefits to their employees that cause their operating costs to rise, then they would have to adjust their fee base in order to accommodate that. And that would be across the county.
That's exactly what I said. 100% exactly what I said, that they would raise the rates.
But they can't raise the rates on the rest of the county to cover our,
Yes, they can.
no.
Yes, they can. They
Well,
can.
good, but they aren't.
They can if they wanted to.
No,
They can. Well, when they get the plants, the village don't own the plants, the county does. It's the county's plants. It's not the village's plants anymore.
mhm.
So why can't they, if it's part of the county, why can't they raise the rates to help the village? What has the village residents done that we have to foot that whole bill for everything?
Well, Ben, I don't think it's anything that we've done. I think it's what we haven't done. I mean, I think that's
I disagree with that too, Scott. I'll tell you why I disagree with that. Up till about 10 years ago, there was a lot of neglect. I've been involved in this village in those two plants. I was involved in both of the building of both of those plants up to my nose. And when they up to about 10 years ago, there was a lot of neglect going down there, but the neglect is not as great as they're saying. The neglect is for one reason, EPA comes down there and inspects those plants once or twice, maybe more a year. And if plants are not running properly, EPA would have taken them and given them away long before now.
Well, none of us are
It's not,
saying
so
that.
it's not that business about how bad it is. It's not as great as it's being said.
Nobody's saying that the plants are that bad. We're saying that our infrastructure is atrocious.
Well, it works.
I would beg to differ if you talk to the fire chief. If they started doing pedo tests on all these fire hydrants, I would beg to differ. I bet our fire hydrants wouldn't cut the mustard.
And part of the reason our infrastructure is in the shape it's in is the attitude of council people is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's
when everybody
not right.
When everybody starts talking about gloom and doom, the best thing you can do is grab your wallet. Uh-oh. Oh, you're in full screen. Yeah, I'm still there.
Okay, I had just to go off on a different area. I found it interesting in the write-up about the amend the current ordinance. And when I first heard that, I was surprised that that's the route that was being looked at. Let's amend the existing one instead of rewrite and pass a new one. I kind of see in the assessment that it could jeopardize us to face a 2021 November vote if they did another referendum because they didn't like it. But how significantly, Michelle, is the rewrite of this going to need to be to move it forward?
Okay, so what we were envisioning would be not that we would amend the current agreement before the election, because what is being voted on for the referendum, I believe, needs to stay as it is until the election. But what I do envision us doing, if we can come to an agreement with the county in principle as to what amendments would be needed, and we hope that it would not be that major. It's basically addressing the primarily the surcharge is the big issue. We've been batting back and forth some other amendments that I think we can maybe dispense with to simplify it. But I think the surcharge mechanism is the primary thing that really needs to be amended. We would use the time between now and the election to inform the public what the anticipated amendments would be if the public agrees to pass it at the election. So I think that doing it this way is the very best chance we have to have an active agreement in effect on January 1st, 2021. What I'm concerned about would be if we were to completely repeal the one that's facing referendum, enact a new one with all these amendments, then we do run a significant risk of having to face another referendum, but not until November of 2021. And I don't think anybody feels that if this is going to go into effect, that we benefit by waiting an extra year.
We do not.
But so what you're saying is we have to convince the public to pass the referendum that's put in front of them, based on the fact that we will amend it as soon as they pass that referendum. That just seems kind of a difficult thing to present to the public and try to get their buy-in.
I'm not disagreeing with you in any way, Paula. It is difficult, but I think that we also we can see this as an opportunity, because I think that there was, I think that people didn't really understand what was going on before when this became a referendum issue. And, you know, this did bring us back to the negotiating table. It has resulted in some improvements that we're going to be able to realize. So I think that we can see this as an opportunity between now and the election to inform the public of what the ultimate passed and agreed to transfer agreement would include. Whereas we don't really have the ability to do that right now if we don't start kind of an education and a memorandum of understanding process that I think will be really useful to us in getting the information out to the public. I totally see your point that, yeah, it is maybe a hard sell, but it
Can't hear you. Oh, you're muted.
I don't know what happened. My space bar must have broken for a minute. Sorry, I'm gnashing on my space bar here. So anyway, I think that doing it this way, while you're right, it might be a difficult sell and kind of hard to get the public to really understand what's going on. It's a better chance of having an agreement that sticks on January 1st of next year. And if it doesn't pass at the ballot, then we're no worse off than if we do a whole new agreement. Because if it doesn't pass at the ballot, then we might have to do a whole new agreement anyway.
And is the county willing to go along with that? I mean, if it doesn't pass at the ballot, that means they are accepting well, let me see, if it doesn't pass at the ballot, if they aren't recalling it, then they are accepting the way it's currently written. With the 86, 70, 59.
Well, if it doesn't pass at the ballot, if the people vote no on the referendum, as in no, the agreement shall not pass, then we're back to basically square one, and we start with the new agreement. And am I making sense?
You are, but then you're asking us to say, accept that 86.59 rate, that surcharge that is in the existing agreement, accept that, and trust us and the county to go forward and make the amendments after the fact.
I see what you're saying, but what would happen, part of this process that I'm envisioning, and I've tried to convey to the negotiating team, and will try to convey to you all too, is that we would, prior to the election, pass a memorandum of understanding with the county signing on the other side that enumerates the amendments that we intend to make after it passes the referendum. So that would all be out there in black and white for people to look at and to know what it's going to say.
I hear you, and I follow the thought pattern. The other thing that kind of bothers me on this is, oh dear, I lost that thought. But I'll come back when that thought comes back.
It's okay. It's fine. I mean, this is my theory of how I think it would work best, but I'm only one person and I'm not a voting person. So if you all do have a better idea, I'm certainly open to it, and my feelings will not be hurt.
I would just like to say one thing for Paula, that if the agreement doesn't pass and we present a new one, it only takes 38 people to put it back on the ballot for the following year. And anybody can get 37 people to go with them.
That's why I'm hoping the information process, the memorandum of understanding, the enumerated amendments that we would be committing to make is enough of an education process to help the public understand what this agreement will look like when it's in effect. And that would be enough to get them to vote for it.
The problem is you're expecting this village, us, to get that word out. And we have not done a good job of educating the public in the past. And that's why we are where we are right now. And that's one of the things that really kind of gets to me, that you're expecting us to educate them and we haven't done that.
And
Get
how
that word out.
how are we going to do that now in this time of COVID? I mean, I hate to even say that, but I mean, how would you propose we do that, Michelle? I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I'm in agreement with you. If we can amend what the county and your group have worked on, I get that. I mean, that cuts down a lot of work. But in this time of, we can't get everybody down to the park lodge and try to explain it. I mean, how are we going to do this?
Well, in my mind, our meetings are even more accessible now than they were before, because all you have to do is log on to YouTube and you can watch it. And if you have a question, send it to me. Like,
Your space bar.
you know what I found out? If Zoom isn't your active window, if you click on another window, like to read your email, it deactivates your space bar. And I keep forgetting that. And I was trying to read this email that I just received. Anyway, so I'm sorry. I agree. It is hard and it's difficult, but in a way it's more accessible because of the internet.
Right.
I mean, okay, I'm going to
And we had discussed this at our last meeting about, once we explained and answered all of council's questions, Ted is preparing his email list and opinions of how the negotiations are going, that should be going out in the next day or so, or it might have even gone out yet today. That we would, if council's on board with moving forward with working on an MOU with the county, then we would start advertising, either doing it on Zoom to have the meetings, or it was even discussed if we could pray that we have a nice day and have it down at the park. Everybody bring their own chairs. We'd all space out and we'd answer. The county would come and we'd all be there to answer any questions. That's
Okay.
one of the options that was being discussed.
I think if we gave everyone the option to be there in person, I think that would go a long way on our part, if we could do it safely. Because I agree with Paula, I don't think that we haven't relayed all of this, and I mean, we didn't do a good job at the beginning, and now it seems it just seems like everything is so convoluted now because we can't be together.
Right, and Scott, I'm sorry, Paula.
Go ahead.
It's just in the last, well, we thought that Dave would be presenting last week, but in our last meeting is when it was decided, okay, we're all comfortable with the EBU and the way that the rates would go, it would be dropping to between the $52 and $60, but still have the $65 operating cost, let's call it that. And the amendments that we all felt that we should present to council to move forward to have an MOU. So we were hoping to be doing something in August down at the park. So then, and start having the meetings, or do it Zoom to answer everyone's questions.
And
It
Michelle,
takes us that long to get here.
I do appreciate the Zoom meetings and the fact that you can go back on YouTube and listen to what's going on. I think that's good. But what happens if people don't quite understand? They like the MOU, the information that's put out in that, but they still feel not comfortable with passing the referendum. They have to pass it, right? In order to then have the MOU go into effect. Correct? They have to vote yes.
They have to vote yes in order for us to have the agreement to amend.
Yeah.
But go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So if they don't quite, that they're passing something that says 8679, even though we've said, oh, but we have this MOU that we're going to go forward with. Trust us. Is the county willing to, if the MOU, if we get the feeling that people really didn't understand that or accept it, want to go because they were afraid it was going to be the 8679, is the county ready to say, okay, then let's do a new agreement? And that only gives us about a month to do it, but
I believe from the discussions we've had, I believe that we're on the same page that if the referendum failed and we're back at square one, that the county would, I believe, still be willing to enter into an agreement with all of the revised terms that were still the subject of the MOU.
okay.
So I think they would be on board with those terms regardless of whether it was an amendment to the current agreement or a whole new agreement after Election Day. But the only thing about a new agreement after Election Day, of course, is we run into the potential to have another referendum, which we really hope we don't have to do, because it's another year. And
Right.
We don't want that.
And then it won't be in place for January 1 anyway.
If there's another referendum, it would not be.
Well, no, if there's a new agreement and it's not referendum,
Well,
it still
hypothetically,
not take place until March.
I don't know, because I mean, if we all were on the same page, we could pass it with suspending the rules in November, and by it would still be non-emergency, and it could technically go into effect in mid-December for the agreement start date of January 1st, if there was no referendum. So it's possible.
That's really iffy. Yeah.
Well, sure. It seems unlikely, but it is possible. It could be done.
I got a question, since y'all are confused and stuff, it's so hard. To pass the referendum is a vote yes, to vote against it is a vote no. Is that right?
This is how I understand it, though I have not seen the ballot language. The way I understand that it would be is the ballot language would be, should ordinance 2019 whatever it was, 49, should ordinance 2019-49 be passed, yes or no?
And who writes that language?
It comes from the Board of Elections.
Yeah.
Board of Elections?
So
Do we get to see it ahead of time?
to agree with the referendum is a no vote, with what you're saying.
To repeal the ordinance that council passed, I believe would be a no vote. That is how I understand the language to come out.
This thing gets more complicated by the minute.
Yeah, it does.
It does. And that's the scary, because we've got to get them to trust us that the MOU is going to go into place and to pass the existing ordinance on that vote.
I wish I had a better idea. I know it is complicated, and I'm certainly open to suggestions. I'm not the deciding factor in this. It was the best idea I could come up with.
You know what? I want to say something while I have the opportunity, and I don't forget. I want to thank you and Rich and Dave and John and Ted Bixler for going back and doing this all over again. So thank you very much.
Yes.
You guys have put in a lot of time. I know that this is hard. Linda, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to forget you, but you're a given. So I know you guys have been working hard. So thank you very much. And Michelle, whatever you think is our best chance, I'm game. I mean, that's my opinion, one man's opinion, but
Well, that's two of us.
I can go along with it, but it still kind of scares me.
it is.
Well, it's gonna be scary
Yeah.
Sure.
it is.
because we have no control over it.
No,
It's the voters that have the control. So
it's scary, but I think that's our best opportunity.
If
And
the
I
voters,
think-
if the voters understand how to vote.
Exactly.
Yes. And now that we're talking that there may be more mail-in ballots, people may start doing it early on.
Right.
And so we've really got to get this information out there quickly.
Michelle, I have a question.
I forgot about that.
For what is, I have a question, Michelle, for what it's worth. Is there any, in terms of how the ballot goes forward, if the village, this is complicated, no doubt. If the village said, let's do a couple Zoom public meetings for the public, is there, I guess, a question to the people who initiated the petition to renege that based upon getting educated on this to take it off the ballot? Is that something that could occur within this time frame before November if you went through a process of education and or particularly with the petitioners? I don't know.
I've done a lot of reading on referendum petitions and the process, and I haven't seen a mechanism for withdrawing it because it's not just the people who circulated it, but of course it's every person that signed it. So I'm not sure that there is a mechanism for that. I mean, I can contact the Board of Elections and ask them.
I
But
only mention it because it's less 80 to 90 signatures.
It was 99 or something like that.
Anyhow, whether that's insurmountable or not, I just throwing it out for what it's worth.
right. I think what I need to do is contact the Board of Elections at the very least and get what the ballot language will be.
Yeah. You're muted.
I don't know how that happens. I'm sitting here putting all my weight on my space bar. I mean, I'm like leaning on it, but I don't know. I'm going to contact the Board of Elections and try to get the ballot language at the very least.
Okay. I think that's step number one. I think we need, like Ben said, I mean, we need to make sure everybody knows, is it yes or is it no?
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
I
not
mean,
sure still.
that could be a big boo-boo.
And we need to know what the MOU is gonna.
That's what I was going to ask.
Right.
Since I think everybody understands what we've come up with so far. I don't know if all of you are 100% in agreement, because we're just on a discussion, so I don't think I'm allowed to ask for a vote. I don't know. But we are having a meeting with the county coming up next week. And I think that we're at a point where we should put an MOU together for council to review with any of the amendments and getting us closer to what the pinning down the actual surcharge type things, because I mean, as Rich said, these are about $59, that kind of thing. So that we have a better understanding to go before our residents, either on Zoom or in person, to let them know.
Okay.
Rich,
Well, oh,
One of
sorry.
the things that I look at is that, yeah, the residents are 59, but then when I look at the churches, when they've got the sanctuary seats at 200 or less, if it's at 200, they're going to end up with a 2.5 EBU, which puts them at 2.5 times that $60.
Right.
Yeah, so that's going to be tough on them because the churches are small.
They are small and
Yeah.
they're hurting right now.
And this sanctuary seating is going to be larger than the attendance and the
Oh.
membership.
Yes. Yes.
So that's
I
yeah.
guess we could always ask, and even though I don't know from the Green Book if you can make that variation, is maybe do the last year, let's go like the last year's attendance, because I know my church does attendance every week, so it can tell you this past Sunday what the attendance was and what it was a year ago. To give us an average of how many parishioners have attended. So I don't know if that's something, but we can bring it up at the meeting just to see.
Okay. I think you should.
If you could.
If you could, yeah. I agree with Paul on that. That's
Yeah,
especially right now,
right.
you
Well,
know.
even with the restaurants right now.
Mhm. Yeah,
When
everybody.
they were at full capacity, that was one thing. So these are questions, Rich and Michelle, let's try to remember to ask at our next meeting and
Okay.
see what they say. But so at this
Okay.
point, I don't think, Michelle, do I need a motion for us to put together an MOU with the county for council to?
We haven't even got to the point that we know what the MOU is going to be completely. We're still talking about, we need this, we need that, we need to do this. So why are we going to do a motion for an MOU right now when we don't know what we're voting for?
We don't need a motion to do that right now because, as Ben says correctly, we don't know the terms of the amendments to the agreement. I'm still waiting to hear back from the county with the amendment, the proposed language I sent them several weeks ago. Never heard back on any of that. I assume they're working on it, but once we get that hammered out, then we would simply have legislation encompassing that for whatever council meeting. It would be great if we could have it for this August council meeting. I don't know if that's realistic or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Should we, since Dave is not going to be at these meetings, do we need a council member there? And who can that be? Because I cannot. I mean, I wish I could. I wish I could be there, but I can't be there. But I feel like if Dave can't be there, then we need a representative for council.
When's the meeting?
The next meeting is 8 o'clock on August 7th.
Cut the sound off.
I could probably make that.
You can make that?
Yeah, I can make that.
Okay, I'll make sure that you get the link to that Tia sent out for the meeting.
Okay, cool.
That would be great. I mean, Matt's on service too, so that's perfect. That'll work in well.
And
I mean, Paul, you're out of town, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm good until probably 9 or 9:15.
Well, look at the
Hey,
minutes.
Yeah.
an hour and 15 minutes is better than none. So,
Right. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Is there any questions out there, Michelle? You're muted again.
I know. I was scrambling for my mouse and trying to activate my window. Only what Rich sent. Rich, did you? Did you get your answer for the chart, Rich?
You were muted. I didn't know. What's the question?
You sent me and Linda a chart.
Oh, just now?
Yeah, just now. Did you want
Oh,
to do that now?
I was only asking it to Matt's question. I had already generated some ideas related, or not ideas, the comparison of a cross section of accounts, businesses, and the impacts on the rate. What I asked was, is it okay to share that with the rest of council?
As far as I'm concerned, you can share.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Rich.
You got it. Email or just do it right now on the
Oh,
screen?
do it right now.
On the
Well, an
screen?
email would be good too, to
Yeah,
be able to look at it.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
but put it up there so we can review it real quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jesus. Ah.
There it is. Get rid of that one. There we go.
Ooh, Crestwood schools go up a lot.
It's EBUs, right, Paul? Yep. Yep. I did have some idea of their typical water usage, so I put the numbers in for the two Crestwoods. I forget which is which.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, the largest user here is where, it's a significant factor for you to see. Again, very preliminary based upon counties review of the auditor's data on what the EBU would be for the parcel or property.
And in saying that, Rich, then what you mean is after we start installing the new meters, then we'll get a better idea of the EBUs, correct?
No, Mayor, it's not based on water.
Oh, okay, sorry.
What John, I think when the idea of when you're inside installing meters, you would, especially the non-residential, you would determine a number of seats, or in a restaurant, you would determine, it was trying to kind of tie the task together, since our contractor is doing the meter replacements. And so that was something John was trying to organize if we were going forward to kill two birds with one stone, so to speak.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really gonna hurt the schools. And the district doesn't support them very well.
Yep.
Again, very preliminary.
Yeah, well. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Yep.
I'll send that to you via email as well.
Thank you.
That'd be great, Rich. Thank you.
Got it. Yep. That was a good question, Matt. I mean, I had this here at the time. I had prepared it. The committee felt, well, wait till Dave was going to do the presentation with council, and then, so.
Very good. Thank you.
You got it.
Okay, I've received an email from Harry Bookert with a question, and I will share that if now's a good time.
Sure.
Harry asks, what happens if water uses goes down by usage or businesses leaving, which would create a revenue lost to the agreement? He's not sure if he explains it right, but I think I know what he means. So a business leaves and now we have less EBUs village-wide. How does that affect the, I believe he's asking, how does that affect the surcharge and how it's calculated? Maybe Rich can do that for us.
Sure. It's regardless of the method of surcharge calculation. If it's water, when you lose a business, you're losing revenue there as well. Under the EBU method, it's the EBUs, that vacant business is removed from the total number, and then it's remixed, if you will. If we had 700 EBUs and we lost 20, then you share it among 680 EBUs. So it would be adjusted when and if that occurs. And then when a business relocates or assumes that location, and that's part of what the county's going to take on. That's their responsibility to do if the system was in place.
So that you're saying that, are you saying that if you go from 700 to 680, that the cost will be distributed between the 680? Does that mean that cost is going to go up, or is the county going to accept that problem, that cost?
It relates to the surcharge, Ben. That's always going to fluctuate every year depending upon actual costs incurred on identified needs. So
are they still going to add that 3% every year to it?
No, the 3% was the cap. If for some reason cost went the other way, we're expecting them to come down. If they went the other way, there was a cap on the increase of 3%. Does that answer it, Michelle? I think, I mean, basically it's, if the number of EBUs change, then obviously there's an adjustment on the surcharge calculation, but it's going to be adjusted every year anyway.
That's how I understand it
Based
too.
upon
Yes.
actual costs.
Yep.
Okay, that's how I understand it. Yeah.
Harry, if you're out there, let me know if we answered your question.
Oh, he's out there, Michelle.
He's out there. He says, got it, thanks.
Okay.
Hi, Harry.
Well, it sort of sounds like we're at a point that we could adjourn.
I think so.
I would make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Linda, you're muted, Linda.
Marty,
Yes.
Jenny, if I can interrupt for just 1 minute, I know you have a motion on the floor. In lieu of the fact that Dave Saluka has resigned from council and we will not be having another meeting, if I take the liberty of having Jenny put an advertisement in the newspaper for a new candidate based on the wording that we used before and getting dates before the next council meeting, so that you could interview maybe prior to the council meeting, maybe start it a little bit early or something.
Okay.
I mean, I can't ask you, no, because I can't ask you for it. That wasn't on the agenda. I'm just kind of letting you know that we need to advertise. So I'm going to take the liberty to do
Okay.
Do it. You don't need a motion to do that. Just advertise for the position. We need.
That's what I said, Ben. That's what I said, Ben.
Yep.
Just letting you know.
Okay.
Do it.
You're all good, Linda.
Do it.
Okay, Jenny, I'm done.
Marty,
I already voted.
Paul,
Yeah, yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
All right.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Scott are going to stay.
Have a
Yeah,
good
I'll
evening.
say.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
You too, Matt. Good
too.
night.
All right.
Bye, Paula.